1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fish all day and make up lies. Yeah, well, that might be a fish story, but that don't mean it ain't true. Fishing on credit, living on love. Well, just trying to catch a prey, 'cause I sure ain't catching much. Casting my demons away with this naked hook. Fishing on credit.
So our adventure starts at 4:30 a.m. at the boat ramp. Captain Jonathan was taking us out on his 2800 Blue Wave Machaira. Awesome boat. The autopilot and the radar was key for this trip. But we started out at Rosen Park boat ramp at 4:30 a.m. And we're going to give you a flyby of the game plan for today. So we're going to head down the Caloosahatchee on our way out to the flats of the Sanibel Inlet / Pine Island Sound so we can get some bait. We cast netted using menhaden and some RFA fish chum to get a bunch of thread fins and large pinfish. So we were all baited up and ready to go. So there you can see some of those beautiful big pins and some of the thread fins and white bait in the live well. So we head back out from here, heading up Pine Island Sound. And man, it was a beautiful morning. Just stark calm, absolutely nothing. So showing you here at sunrise coming up, the flat waters of Pine Island Sound. But as soon as we get out into Redfish Pass, all of that changes. Out in the Gulf, it was, so there's Redfish where we headed out. And we had a long boat ride out to about 170 feet of water, approximately 75 miles out, I believe. But the swells were just crazy. There was a weird, long, rolling, swells that were, 3.5 to 4 feet high at some points. So made getting out there quite challenging and a little bumpy, but ultimately a 2-hour boat ride out to the fishing grounds after American Red Snapper. This was the second weekend that American Red had opened up in the Gulf. But first weekend the weather was horrible. The weather was actually pretty good except for those weird swells that we had to deal with. So again, 2-hour boat ride out to where we're going. I just like watching the birds and watching the flying fish come out of the swells to pass the time on the long boat ride out there. But we finally get to where we're going and we drop down and bam, right away, a super nice scamp that you see Captain Jonathan there got. And now this is where the fun starts because Jarrett kept getting holed by a big fish. So we see him fighting it here. He didn't have one of the bent butt boat rods that Captain Jonathan and myself were using. So he's struggling, of course, with some of these fish. And they just kept holing him, and he got a few pulled out of the hole, but I think the leader was frayed up to the point where he just kept breaking off. So I'll let you watch this for a second. It's kind of funny.
You know what? I feel like a nice guy today. Works better if you put it in your hip, not in your dick.
Well, it's under my balls.
If you put it right here, it feels a lot better. And you can stand up a little bit more. He was like, oh, my nards! Only because I feel like a nice guy today, Swope. Only because I got my limit already.
Get him.
I'll get this one while you're getting that one.
Broke off.
Are you kidding me?
Nope. Golly.
Unbelievable.
There's a little one. It's a baby. It's just a baby.
Just a wee doubler.
It's a baby.
A few minutes later, so my rod goes off in the rod holder, and I've got a massive fish on. It was digging hard. Could tell it was a big, good fish, digging really hard. Then all of a sudden, it took one last big dig, and yep, it got taxed. Massive, massive red grouper taken by a big shark. And the funny thing was, it had two other lines in its mouth. We believe that this was the monster that kept holding Jarrett and breaking him off. So shortly after that, I actually caught one of the menacing tax man, got him all the way up to the boat before he broke off. But this is what we imagined the water underneath the boat looked like at this point, just because we couldn't get him up fast enough before getting taxed. So we decided to move on. And the next spot that Captain Jonathan knew about was around 15 miles. So we had a little bit of a boat ride. While we're doing that boat ride, let's look at the rigs that we used. Very simple triple swivel bottom fishing rig. But I will walk you guys through it in case you're new to bottom fishing. So most of the lines that we had were strung up with around 50-pound braid. And we attached that to the triple swivel via double Palomar knot. Moving on from there, on the bottom swivel, you want to attach your loop knot for your weight. I call this the weight leader or weight line. And I think we were using approximately 25-pound monofilament attached with to the swivel via an improved clinch and a loop knot at the bottom. I know that I say here only about 6 inches total. In reality, I think it's more from like 12 to 15 inches from the total weight line, from the tip of the loop knot up to the swivel. And the reason you want that is when you're bottom fishing, you're dropping the weight all the way down until you feel bottom, but you don't want that weight, especially a heavy one like this, clanking on rocks or coral or hitting up sand and sending up dust plumes. It just doesn't look natural. It can potentially scare some finicky fish and move them away from a bite. So once you drop down and you feel bottom, you want to give it 1 or 2 cranks up, so that that weight is not bouncing off the bottom, but you're holding the bait close to the bottom. We were using about 8 ounces of lead in 170 plus foot of water. The 8 ounces got us down to the target zone quickly and held it in the target zone within the current. So for the leader line now, coming from the T-swivel, we were using approximately 4 feet of 60 or 80 pound Seagar inshore fluorocarbon. I personally was using 80 pound, and I was tied on to a 7/0 Trocar Lancet inline circle hook. That's what I was personally using on all of my rigs. And I thought it also important to show you guys how to hook the live bait, because I actually made the mistake on the first drop to hook them behind the dorsal fin, right in front of the dorsal fin actually. But you need to nose hook them. I wasn't getting any bites on the dorsal. I pulled it back up, put it through the bottom jaw, up through the nostril or the tough part of the upper jaw, by nose hooking them there. And the minute I dropped that back down, hooked the right way, it was on like Donkey Kong, constantly getting bites on those pinfish and white bait or thread fins that we were using. So on to the main attraction. Here it is, the star of the show, our targeted species, the American red snapper. This was a hoss. It was my first one. That right when we pulled up to that new spot and dropped down, it didn't take long at all before I had that on, and he was all of 15 pounds. Captain Jonathan had another large one. I think this was the biggest one of the day. It was, again, over 15 pounds for sure. But red snapper are common from a pound or so to about 6 or 8 pounds usually. Maximum is around 20 pounds, although they can rarely run as high as 30 to 40 pounds. The world record for ARS is 50 pounds, 4 ounces. The Florida state record is 46 pounds, 8 ounces. This fish is a hard fighting scrapper. It uses strong head shake tactics rather than long runs. I love American red snapper, not to mention the table fare's amazing. But talking about another amazing table fare, probably the most prized table fare of all the grouper is the scamp. Other names are brown grouper, broomtail grouper, abedeo. Usually these are well under 10 pounds, but occasionally more than 20. The world record for scamp is 29 pounds, and the Florida record is 25 pounds, 4 ounces. So as you can see, we had some really nice scamp that we got on this trip. The food value, though, is excellent. Commercially considered, it's the prize of all groupers. I'm really stoked that we were able to land as many as we did out there today. Going to make for some awesome table fare. We also got a couple different species. We got one gag, which we had to throw back. Unfortunately, he was a legal size-wise, but right now they're closed, so had to throw him back. But we also harvested a couple red grouper. Pound for pound, I think that the red groupers are the hardest fighting grouper, although once you get them up off the bottom, they become pretty lethargic. And then you're just pulling up weight, but also a very, very tasty grouper. Glad that we were able to hook a couple here. So this spot, we moved around a little bit, but as you can see, unfortunately, text.
I'm the tax man.
So the tax man showed up again, started plucking off some of the ARS. We had already hit limit. We were good. We cleaned up everything, put everything away, strapped out, emptied the bait well, and started our long trek home. This was an easier ride home than it was on the way out. The swells had kind of calmed down a little bit, but you see these two chatty Cathys up there just chit-chatting the whole way home while I'm drinking some beer. We got inshore, got rained on very, very slightly, but made for a good rainbow. And here we go.
You now just do your right and not your wrong. When wrong is easy and right is hard. And
What do you think about that?
I think we got some time playing.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.